I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say
Is
is
there
that
an
gender is a
infinite number?
reflection. Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I
Yeah.
think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man.
There is no example. If you're feeling confused, it's because this is confusing. And that's the goal. The goal is to confuse you and to wear you out and to just make you say whatever. But it's not that confusing though. How is the world doing? Well, in this video, you and I are gonna sit together watching the world going crazy. We're gonna watch the world imploding unto itself. We're gonna watch ideology and the consequences of ideology. And at the end, I'm gonna put my common sense in that. I hope you are ready. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. Okay, every Tom Mather, give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's get to this video. Oh, by the way, what we have going on right now is Senior John Kennedy is questioning the human rights president, which is Kelly Robinson. So yeah, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Great discussion, and let's take a listen.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Just do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
Three? I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born. I'm talking about biology. Male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But again, I'm not a doctor here.
Intersex is not a sex in itself as part of biology. It's an abnormality. This is something that went wrong, biologically speaking. And oftentimes, doctors are able to determine which sex that person was supposed to be. And there is a very small group of people that happens to. So it's not even part of the discussion. This is where you talk about the exception and the rule. So trying to make the exception the rule is kind of like, it's a weak argument, but let's keep listening.
And what does intersex mean?
Is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well, but I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than five.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I mean, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today.
She's funny. Well, the gender things is actually over 20 something. I think 24, and counting. Okay. By the way, you need to study what John Money has done, because this foundation she's talking about is rooted in an ideology and an experience by John Money, who was not even respected during this time, even though people went to believe his concept. But he is the one who separated sex from gender and make it an ideology to be taught in school. And I mean, there's a lot of other very disturbing things, what he did to children. I mean, most people will tell you he was a pedophile. All right. So anyway, we can leave that for another video. So this is what they're building this foundation upon. It's a foundation built on an ideology of a single individual and then school of thoughts, and they ran with it. It's very similar to evolution. Like, I go after my atheist friends. You got one man who came with a theory, and that theory became the thinking of the academia, the intellectuals. They run with it, even though the theory in itself is very questionable. It's been debunked, reviewed, and exposed to be false, right? They still run with it. It's the same thing that's going on in gender ideology right now. It's just a theory that a man created, invented, and instead of questioning the thing, lobbyists and people who are motivated with other thoughts and people who are completely confused in their conscience decided to run with it. And now we are seeing the results.
If
I
you
think
could
that there are
just
ways
answer
that
my
we
question.
express our
Are there
gender
more
that
than
are
5
expansive.
genders? Are there more than 5?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is
there
that
an
gender is a
infinite number?
reflection. Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I
Yeah.
think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
But these young people also have mental health issues. They also have a lot of suicidal ideation. There's a lot of confusion. There's also ideology. There is peer pressure. There is TikTok. And there is sexual abuse happening in their past. So there's a lot of stuff that played a significant role in the thinking, in the psyche of these youth. So how are we supposed to make laws to give in to that? I think definitely we need to deal with the psyche. We need to address the mind. But why are we making laws to cut body parts of people whose minds is not even, they're not even there. They're not even with it. They're not all thinking right. Again, are you watching our world going crazy?
Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are 3 sexes, male, female, and intersex.
Intersex
I
is
believe
not
that
sex.
to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And
so-
there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl. Okay, biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real world experience?
So you're not a physician. You can speak to that whenever it comes to asking you questions that you feel like if you were to answer, you have to tell the truth. So therefore, she pulls the card of I'm not a physician, right? I'm not a biologist. I can talk about that. But at the same time, you will tell me there are 3 sexes, which intersex is not a sex at all. It's an abnormality. This is something that happens that's not supposed to happen, right? However, but you will tell me gender is infinite. But you're not a biologist. You're not a doctor. How do you even know that? I mean, when am I supposed to believe you? When your ideology, when it is suitable to your narrative, but everything else that is questionable, I'm supposed to just stick my head in the sand and believe everything you say. I mean, are these people for real?
It depends. I mean, there are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male
That's a straw. That's one of the straw arguments that you may be more fit than a male to do something better than him. That doesn't mean you have an advantage. That doesn't mean men do not naturally, generally stronger than women. And I think it's just a weak thing. Like when people are saying this, there are still biological difference between the two sexes. All right. So you may be stronger. You may be able to bench press more than a man. That doesn't change the facts that men naturally, if a man is trained just as well as you do, he will beat you all the time. If a man runs as well as you do and practice as well as you do on a tracking field, he will win. That's just what the facts are. It's just what the facts are. Now, there are weaker men physically, biologically. That might not be the case, but I don't know why these people are confusing things that are very basic. You know, this world we literally are losing our minds.
a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think.
There is no example. If you're feeling confused, it's because this is confusing. And that's the goal. The goal is to confuse you and to wear you out and to just make you say whatever. But it's not that confusing, though. It's really not that confusing. They want us to be confused because that's how they win. But it's not confusing. Just go back and saying it. God made them male and female. Simple as that. You have a problem with that? You have some new things you want to create? That's on you. You are more than welcome to create that. But I don't believe you, though.
How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis.
That's not the same thing, woman. What is she talking about? Why is she answering questions that she was not asked?
Right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience been?
If those men are trained, even Serena Williams herself came out and said this. If those men are trained and they know how to play the game, they can beat her anytime. It's not a difficult thing. Okay, so two different men. It's one thing you take a random guy who knows nothing about tennis and you put them in the field against her. Of course, she's going to win. But if you take the same guy, you train him for a couple months, you teach him the basics, okay? You work on his diet, all right, on his physicality, and you put him in the field, that's a different story. But again, this is a huge gap hole here that oftentimes in the argument is left untouched.
Male, female.
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience.
There goes my girl. This is Riley Gaines. We love her.
The 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week.
That's crazy.
Without trying.
This is truth right here. Isn't it nice when you hear the truth? I mean, truth feels good. The other stuff we were hearing from Miss Kelly Robinson was confusion.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business.
Exactly.
But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult. If I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too.
Yeah.
And I think parents have rights.
Yep.
And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Kennedy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that there is not a definitive advantage in all cases. Sir, I don't know if you believe that you could beat Serena Williams in tennis, but I probably think that that's not the case. There are not all cases where all men are physically superior to all women.
Yeah, generalizing, trying to confuse what was made simple. Please stop. But I'll let her finish.
And at the end of the day, in this conversation, we're not talking about that. We're talking about trans women who are, in fact, women.
So how could there be women if they are trans? You're supposed to be trans because that means you're transitioning to become something that you were not, right? Well, and then you claim to be the very thing that, and then you are being positioned above real biological women. And we're supposed to just stick our heads in the sand and say, give you all the rights that you want. And talking about Serena Williams and all men, and there's no definite. Is Kelly Robinson for real right now? I'll let her finish.
Who deserve to play in a gender that matches their sports, who deserve all the benefits that Ms. Gaines is talking about. And as a cisgender Black woman, I can say definitively that my womanhood is not threatened by a transgender person.
I don't care about that cisgender thing. That is actually a slur. Actually, Elon Musk recently is banning that when you use that terminology on Twitter, and I think it's a good thing because it's not okay. It's a very disrespectful way to address normal people. If you are normal, if you're a male or female, they call you a cisgender. It's actually an insult. Anyway, those liberal languages, I don't like them very much. They are very demeaning and disrespectful. But let her finish, James. Let her finish.
Asserting hers as well.
Senator Hirono.
Kelly Robinson just said exactly nothing. You went from common sense to nonsense. Well, friends, how did you enjoy the show? Our world is imploding. And I think from implosion to explosion. It's literally going crazy. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more if you enjoyed this video. Listen, friends. I love me some Jesus. Jesus, he always tells the truth. These people are trying to tell you sex and gender are different. They want to tell you from their supposed intellectual research, not biology, not science, somebody's ideology. They want to tell you that sex and gender are not the same. Let me read the words of the Creator himself. This is Jesus speaking. You don't have to believe me. Believe the one who made you. Here is the word of the one who created the world. When I say this, I'm not sugarcoating it. That's what the Bible says. But from the beginning of the creation of God, God made them male and female. So what are the two sexes highlighted in Scripture? Male and female. So now we have gender. We have gender. Right there goes gender. Now, not only does Jesus highlight gender, he also highlights the sexes. He went on to say, for this cause shall a man leave his mother and his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and the twain shall be one flesh. So when we have male and female, we have men and wife, or you can say men and women. So whether they are men, male, men, in the context, interchangeably, Jesus says that's the same thing. Sex and gender in biology, same exact thing. They want to tell you it's not the same thing. They want to tell you that in biology, we have sex, which is male and female. But in gender, it's about your emotion, the way you feel, what you claim to be, as you identify. That's not you. That's a lie. And actually, this is the foundation that we need to go after, that foundation, because the theory is built on this foundation. And if you can address the foundation, the whole entire building will fall apart, because it's built on a false ideology. And they can be doctors. These doctors are bought and sold. They can be politicians who are saying this. They are bought and sold. And because some well-recognized individual approved this doesn't necessarily mean anything. Teachers can say whatever they want. They are bought and sold into the ideology. What we're going back to is the word of God. We're going back to reality and honesty. And a lot of that is missing in our country today. There's a lot of that confusion. And again, no disrespect to Kelly. I don't care about her skin color, black, sex, gender. I could care less. What I care about is the truth. And when the truth is under attack, we can't play games anymore, because ideology have consequences. These different ideas have consequences in them. Lives will be lost, lives will be saved, decision will be made that will have eternal consequences on these views. We can't play with this matter. It's a serious matter. We should be prayerful, loving and kind, but we should not be lying to our sons and daughters. I'll stop right there. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. You want to support this channel, go over to the merch. Check out our merch. Check out our merch. Check out our merch. God's rainbow. Yes, it is. It's God's rainbow. God's rainbow's a promise, man. God's rainbow. We got the promise of grace, forgiveness, and judgment. So go over to our merch. Christ for the crisis. So I'm wearing God Wins today. So this one I didn't make, but I'm going to make something similar to that. So check out what else we got going on here. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. If you enjoy the content, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.